I'm Dave Greenwood, and this is Overcoming Distractions. If you are an adult with ADHD, a busy professional, an entrepreneur, a high achiever, or just need some strategies to navigate your adult ADHD, you're in the right place. Who am I? I'm an entrepreneur with ADHD and the author of 2 books, Overcoming Distractions and Overcoming Burnout. I coach and mentor people just like you, and together we navigate the ups and downs of adult ADHD. From getting out of our own way to helping people just like you thrive in the workplace. That's what I do. Want more info on working with me? Hit overcomingdistractions.com. Ready? Let's get to today's podcast. All right, people, what's going on? It is Dave. You're back on Overcoming Distractions with me. I hope you're having a good week. I hope maybe you have found some wins or some successes as we dig into the year 2025. However, if you're struggling a little bit or you're trying to juggle a bunch of stuff with your ADHD brain, then you are certainly in the right place, and I welcome you. Even if you think you have ADHD, then you are certainly welcome to hang out with us. You are more than welcome. So thanks for hitting that download button. Hey, real quick, we try to crank out some meaningful podcasts, advice. We try not to talk a lot of crap here. I want you to come here and I want you to say to yourself, hey, that's a great idea. Maybe I could try that in my life. Or maybe we had a great discussion with some of the awesome guests that I have been able to secure over the years. Everything from doctors to other people that can help us navigate the ups and downs of being that busy adult with ADHD. I just thank you so much for, again, coming and trusting what we continue to crank out here every week. If you have gotten some benefit from hanging out with us and you want to support it, I say this all the time. I live on coffee. So all you need to do if you want to just support the podcast in even a tiny way is just hit buymeacoffee.com/overcomingd. And you can buy me a coffee. You can buy me 3 coffees. You can whatever. It just helps support the ongoing work that is involved with cranking this podcast out, which I love to do. The other thing I will just mention real quick is that if you are a busy professional with ADHD, you got a lot of things going on and you need to do some problem solving with somebody who has been there, I'd love the opportunity to chat with you. Just hit overcomingdistractions.com. Hit that button right at the top that says book a 15-minute chat with me, and let's see if I may be able to help you. So, all right, that's the housekeeping. So, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that most of us busy adults with ADHD, we go to bed. The time is irrelevant for this conversation because I know a lot of you have maybe some bedtimes that maybe aren't super good for us with ADHD, but that's another podcast. And then we get up and we immediately hit the ground running. Maybe our mornings are a little chaos. Maybe we don't have a solid routine to make the rest of our day fulfilling, which I think is super important. And a bunch of us don't even take just a few minutes to slow down and hit that pause button, which, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know that that is one of the core foundations in my life. Is slamming on the brakes sometimes. So I am confident for many of us that if we just stop what we're doing, even if it's for a few minutes, I think life can get a little easier, work can get a little easier, and we can kind of methodically approach our days and our weeks. So I'm a big fan of hitting the pause button, so we're going to talk about this for a little bit on this episode, because one thing I am 100% sure of, if you don't slow down or you don't stop, there's no way you're going to be able to sort out all the challenges you're going through, especially in the workplace, but of course, even at home. And we just need to hit that pause button. And hitting that pause button, I like to say it that way. Hitting that pause button can mean many things, and it can come in many forms. But a ton of us adults with ADHD we don't know how to do it. We don't think about doing it. We just don't do it. We just jump out of bed, do what we got to do, throw our crap in the car, and get right to work. So today, I'm going to talk about why hitting the pause button is so important and how to do it in various settings. And many of these do come from my own experience. I know one other thing. When I rush from one thing to the next, I make mistakes. I don't do things as well, and I even miss important things. So slowing down and ignoring the planet for a few minutes can be a game changer. Not to be confused with ignoring others or your responsibilities, if you know what I'm saying. Ignoring people for a brief period of time so you can get your shit together is different from ignoring people because your ADHD brain says, I don't want to deal with you. So let's talk about hitting the pause button. And there's a bunch of ways I think we can approach the pause button to help us, depending on the types of things that we are trying to do. So let's talk about some of the quick little intentional pauses, those, 2, 3, 5 minute pauses, and I really feel just hitting that reset button, even if it's for a couple minutes, is time really well spent. For example, if you have the type of job where you are sitting at the desk, and a lot of you that I think listen to this podcast do fall into that category, or maybe you're an entrepreneur, you're doing all different types of things. But if you're a type of busy professional with ADHD that you need to crank out a ton of work, you do need to hit that release valve, especially if you have ADHD, because I think that it just kind of builds up in us. It builds up in our mind, our body. We need to purge that tension, I think. And I think that the key here is to find ways not to get distracted, okay, when you're hitting the reset button. For example, working from home and emptying the dishwasher or cutting the grass, which, I wouldn't know anything about, right? So here's a few ways that I think we could just briefly hit the pause button to kind of regain our momentum during the day. And I think one is the body reset. And I'm a big fan of just standing up, stretching. Some people I've talked to literally do jumping jacks like we did when we were kids, or like Tabatas, where they're just quick little 30-second workouts, just to release that built-up tension. And I think it does help us reset our focus. One thing I do, which I actually stumbled on this, but it ended up being really awesome for me, is I use those physical therapy bands, those rubber or whatever they're made of, those exercise bands. And I do like even a 60-second workout. And I stumbled on this because I had a shoulder injury. And it was one of the exercises that the physical therapist showed me to do. But what happened is it was just this 60-second burst of energy, which allowed me to sit back down at my desk and refocus. And, a double whammy, it actually helped heal my shoulder. So I encourage you can go on Amazon and buy a package of these for $10, okay, $10 US. And it's literally, I stumbled on it, but it's a game changer. So there's that body reset. The next thing is breathing. And I've talked to a lot of people who like that box breathing. And I think we're gonna do a podcast on this soon. I've got a couple people in mind. to talk about how we can kind of implement breathing. But the box breathing is that breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds again. And a lot of people do enjoy that, and there's actually science to back up how that actually helps us regulate stress and even some impulsivity. But just breathing. Sometimes I just sit at my desk and just shut the volume off of everything, maybe shut the fan off, and I just sit at my desk and breathe, even if it's for a few minutes. I enjoy the quiet. I keep it as quiet as possible. And some days that helps me reset and recharge a little bit and chill out. So the next thing, which I think is big for us, is kind of that sensory reset, hitting the pause button to just reset our kind of sensory part of our brain. And I think this involves changing your environment a little bit. Maybe it's stepping outside, changing the lighting. Maybe it's grabbing a fresh coffee, or maybe it's that cold drink. One of the things that has helped me is I just go outside for even 2 minutes, especially in the winter here outside of Boston, where I just get that burst of cold air in my face. I don't want to stand out there for an hour, but the cold air actually does just wake me up. And I love that fresh air in my face. And again, there's science to prove that as well, because it actually gives you a little bit of a shot of dopamine. If I'm really busy or I'm jumping from appointment to appointment, I go in the bathroom and I throw cold water on my face for 20 or 30 seconds. And you can go ahead and laugh and you can say, that's crazy. Try it. I challenge you to try it. Sometimes it's a hard reset. It's like literally unplugging the computer and plugging it back in. But that cold actually does have some scientific backing behind it. So try the sensory reset. That's a great way to hit the pause button briefly. Again, some what they call kind of micro movements, where you can just walk around and shake off a little bit of that mental fatigue. Maybe it's in your office. Maybe you can't leave your office. Sometimes we just need to stand up for a minute or two. Punch up a quick song to give you a shot of dopamine. Just don't go down the YouTube rabbit hole, right? But sometimes we just need a quick, maybe it's death metal. I don't know what kind of music you like. All right. But sometimes that just quick little shot. And then next, the hydration break. Refill that water bottle. Dehydration or even approaching that is going to worsen your focus. You can also refresh your coffee, tea. Maybe some of you do the Red Bull thing. I'm not going to judge, but that is, hydration. I know coffee and tea can actually dehydrate you, so you got to make sure that you have that balance as well. But again, the point is to, just make sure maybe you're consuming something that can help you. I'll leave that up to you. Everybody's different. Some people pound down coffee, as I say. But I do have a combination of coffee. Sometimes I actually have a yerba mate tea, and a lot of times I just have a water bottle right here. And incidentally enough, the water bottle is right next to my to-do list. So how cool is that? So, all right, those are those micro, kind of little, quick, intentional 2 to 5 minute pauses that I think are super important for those of us with ADHD.
Hey gang, Dave stepped out real quick to grab a cup of coffee, and if you know Dave, you know he doesn't even speak in the morning without a ton of coffee. So why don't you buy Dave his next cup of coffee? Go to buymeacoffee.com/overcomingd and get him that cup of coffee and support the show. Your support will help keep Dave awake and help keep those podcasts coming out on time. It's buymeacoffee.com/overcomingd. Okay, he's back.
Now, the other way that you want to hit the pause button is for planning, okay? And that is mission critical for those. Hitting the pause button for planning is an area where I think many of us with ADHD fall down. And I'm just going to keep it real here because I've worked with a lot of you out there one-on-one individually to kind of figure things out and to make life and work and other areas more fulfilling. And sometimes when I say, when was the last time you just sat down and hit the pause button, quiet, no distractions, and planned out your day or your week? Sometimes that's crickets for a lot of you. So many of us are guilty. We just run in the office, we pick one thing and we decide to work on it, and there's no kind of actual game plan. So this is where I think a lot of us fall down. The ironic thing, in my opinion, is we, those of us with ADHD, I think are actually good at planning when we slow down and we sit down and we do it. But many of us, it's the execution that also falls short. So, and it's funny because we either plan or execute, and for some of us, nothing in between, right? I don't know if this rings a bell to many of you. And by the way, I'm generalizing here, but in no way saying that every single person with ADHD does these things exactly. And again, if you've listened to me, you know that some of those things kind of bother me. Like ADHD is losing your car keys. ADHD is, what have you. We're all different, but I just want to say that. But generally speaking, if you're in a demanding career or job, I find that a lot of us just don't take that whatever time frame to hit the pause button and sort things out. There are a couple main ways that I utilize hitting the pause button on a longer level in my world. So let's go over these real quick. First, I have a meeting with myself every week. It's a recurring calendar invite, and it's just me. And there's no end date. It just goes on forever in my calendar. It rings the same time every week. That is time for me to get my shit together and to figure out what I've missed and what is urgent. For me, it's 30 minutes, but it's just enough for me to get back on track. What do I do in this 30 minutes? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can go a couple different ways, but one thing I need to do is just clear things up. Maybe I've written a few notes to myself. Maybe it's even a Post-it or two. And yes, I have Post-its and sticky notes too. So if you think you own the Post-it world, you don't. A lot of us have those. Sometimes, because I do have a home office, I might write something real quick to myself that came to mind. But I think one of the ways that this time works for me is it's an opportunity to do a brain dump. And then from there, I can just clean stuff up so it's not scattered everywhere. I'm not perfect, and my desk can turn into a fire hazard pretty quickly as well. So ADHD or not, by the way, we don't own that either. So I take a look at my week so I can see out at least, the next 5 days, see if I can adjust anything to make my week a little smoother. And I also need to make sure that if I have any appointments, that I'm also ready, because that's the last thing you want is go, oh, I got to meet with so-and-so and crap, I didn't put this in place, or I don't have this. So, and while I do spend a lot of my week meeting with busy professionals like you to kind of sort these things out, I also have a handful of marketing and PR clients that I still work with from my PR firm back in the day. And they're super awesome clients. But it's important for me to have my week as buttoned up as I possibly can, because I do have a couple or a few areas that I do need to focus on during the week. The next thing that does is, because email haunts most of us with ADHD, I take a chance to scroll down through my inbox and just make sure I haven't missed anything. Because if we get a bunch of emails in one day, I know for me, something can scroll below my visual screen before I even know it. And all of a sudden it's gone. And those reply to all, can kill us sometimes, because you get 6 or 8 reply to alls and all of a sudden you've got a screen full of emails and something isn't in your line of sight anymore. So it's important to you got to take that time to just scroll through and make sure you didn't miss anything. I button up my to-do list and I spread out my tasks methodically and my projects methodically during the week so I can get them done with less stress. I also make sure, to the best of my ability, that I have preserved any type of blocked out time or my theme days, as I love to discuss. And I need to make sure that I haven't overcommitted myself, because if I do that, then I'm going to get tired, and you're gonna start to see signs of burnout again. And many of us still need to learn that lesson. But you can't do this unless you pause. So you can pause weekly, and for many, pausing daily, even for 5 or 10 minutes, can be a game changer. I advise both. You need that weekly meeting with yourself, and then you need just 5-10 minutes to just shut the door and shut your phone off, or tell people in the office or what have you, or Teams. You just need to ignore people for even a few minutes a day. A couple other breaks that I want to make sure that you incorporate. I'll say it again and again and again. Gym. You can run out to the gym at certain parts of the day, or you can go take a walk. These are game changers for our ADHD brain. I know I've talked it before. I'm going to continue to beat that drum. I say nobody's going to miss you for a half an hour. I am a firm believer of that. So make sure you're taking breaks several times a week to either hit the gym, take a quick walk, what have you. Eating. Hey, there's a novel concept. Make sure you're eating, because you know what? When you're hungry, that's a distraction. We think about all these other things as distractions, but when you're hungry, that's a distraction, because you can't think anymore. When I'm hungry, forget it. I can't put 2 sentences together, because my stomach is just saying, Dave, hello, pay attention to me. So you need to take breaks to eat. Don't come home and say, oh, I missed lunch today. That's not acceptable when we have ADHD. And if you work from home, don't forget the family, right? You need to make sure to pause occasionally and to make sure that you're spending time with the family, wherever that is, and whatever type of job or career that you have. All right, gang, as I say, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. This is the place if you are the busy professional, the entrepreneur with ADHD. We get street smart, we get real, we work on the mechanics of being a busy person with ADHD. If you feel like you need some one-on-one assistance and problem solving with somebody who has been there, then just hit overcomingdistractions.com. Click that 15-minute Zoom chat and see if we are aligned and that we can work together. All right, we'll catch you next time.